This is Family Electric Ghost, and we're live on the air with Deana and Lizzie. And I want to welcome you to the Family Electric Ghost podcast. The first time we're talking to you. How are you doing tonight?
Doing great. Thank you for having us, Phantom.
Well, it's fun to talk to people from around the world in a live setting. That's kind of our jam. But we're going to talk today about some interesting topics that we like to get into depth here. It's a long form podcaster, but we're going to talk about behind the mask when charm hides a predator. And we'll kind of get into like how did we get to this topic. Just to give people a little heads up, there's a QR code up there, and that would go to survivingtoxicrelationships.org. So you can scan that with your phone. You can get there right now, and that would be like this link, but it's actually as the QR code, so it's easier to get to. So you can follow along and get some background to who we are talking to tonight. But before we get to the depth of the start of this show, I asked every guest on the show, on the podcast, a couple questions. I don't know who wants to answer it, but what motivates you and why do you do what you do? Who wants to answer that first?
Oh, I'll start. Sure. Hi, I'm Deana, and well, I'm going to answer for both of us because we kind of are a package deal on this journey, and so to explain kind of where we're coming from, where we're going. But what motivates Lizzie and I, and we can take turns on the questions, is that we started this endeavor to help women who are caught in a toxic relationship. They feel lost, confused, and afraid to leave or confront their abuser. So that's why we do what we do.
That's important. So you've had like a kind of like a pay it forward type experience where you have had lessons learned and have strategies for people to try to help people. Is that like what your focus is?
Absolutely. Just to open up the can right now, Lizzie and I were married to the same toxic narcissist. Not at the same time, but I was the first wife for 27 years, and she was the second wife for 6 years. And after she decided that she'd had enough, that's when we connected. I knew that she was a good person because she was my children's stepmother, even though they were adults. And so that's how we connected, is when she decided that she needed to not have this relationship anymore. She reached out and we connected, and then we talked about everything. And of course, that connected a whole lot of dots for her as to why she was being treated the way she was and the things that she was seeing, and definitely validated what I went through as well. So it was just this amazing relationship. And that's kind of where this whole thing started.
Yeah.
It seems like today we're kind of going backwards, because I remember when I was in school, I was going to be a lawyer. And I actually went, and part of my legal training in undergraduate is I went to a legal defense fund clinic, and I used to help people get protective orders.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually was like, a law, like pre-law, and part of my learning about the law was like to help this legal defense fund clinic actually help people that were at risk people, and we would deal with the situation where we get somebody would go for the protective order, and then suddenly 2 days later, like say revoke it.
Yes.
Don't do it. And then we would see this kind of thing, and we'd be trying to like, well, we're trying to put a like a lifeline.
Yeah.
But like, if you're caught in that bad loop, like you can't get out of it. It's hard to get out of it. Even when, sometimes you could end up at a situation where we had people that would go and they would end up like being challenged, or like you had to sometimes go with like some people to help you, because like it would get kind of strange. It wouldn't work out the way you thought.
Well, and research shows from the domestic violence hotline that a person will leave their abuser an average of 7 times before they finally get to the breaking point. So it's not uncommon to have probably restraining order after restraining order, and then until one day they wake up and they're like, I just cannot take it one more day. So that's not uncommon.
Yeah, because it seems like it's like you get to this point where you just had this, you kind of, I guess, you get to this cathartic, not a cathartic moment, crucible moment. Mm-hmm. There's like this moment where suddenly, a lot of times, like you stay in the familiarity of a toxic environment. You're in a toxic, like family, you end up being a toxic relationship, you got a toxic boss and a toxic workplace. Because it's like the law, like in Buddhism, there's this idea of the law of attraction and like frequencies. So if you're radiating in a musical kind of perspective of a discordant, dissonant frequency, you might stay in that frequency because it's what you know. And going into
100%.
the harmonic frequency, that's a harder thing to do because you don't know it. So
100%. And that is, I love that you brought that up, Phantom, because that is definitely one of the reasons that women stay, is because it is familiar. And sometimes, even the familiarity, if it's broken, if it's toxic, if it's abusive, if you're just a shell of yourself, it is still less scary than the unknown. The unknown is terrifying. And I love to use the example of like foster children. Foster children can be abused and terribly manipulated and terribly abandoned for years. But they would much rather stay in that environment because it's their security, it's their home, it's all they know. Taking them somewhere unfamiliar and new, even if it's going to eventually set them free, is absolutely terrifying. And adults are just no different. That's how it feels. And when you add trauma bonding into that scenario, along with guilt, along with your abuser manipulating you, that he's going to change, he's going to be better, or your life's going to be horrible, he's going to make you pay. And then you add in, if you happen to be a person of faith, now you have all these values and morals that you feel like you're breaking. And then let's throw in, we have a family. A lot of people have a family with this person. And we know these are male or female. Narcissists can go either way. So we definitely don't want to act like they're only male narcissists. It's just that our audience right now is women. So we, that's what we cater to. And so we use that language. But we want to make sure that everybody understands. We know several people that have been the opposite. It has been a female narcissist that has made their life hell. So, that can go either way, but it is the ability to leave is extremely nuanced and extremely difficult. And just like you're describing, people will finally get to the end and then be really, truly, they truly mean it. And then all of a sudden, all these things start to hit home. All the reality starts to hit home of what they're really doing. And I was married to the narcissist, for 27 years. And I left him 9 times. And I mean, I physically left. I packed up, took all 4 kids, moved in with my mom 9 separate times. But the way that he got me back, he was so good at it. He knew me like nobody else. And he would even invite, have friends call me, have a pastor call me, people that I cared about. So it's a crazy, crazy scenario.
That's interesting about the pastor because, like, I was a sociology major, and they get these social mores. You get the kind of social control structure where, like, okay, you're told that this is like a sacrifice. Like you have to sacrifice your individuality to this other, right? Whether it's a kind of male dominated or female situation, either way, like if you get that person that makes you feel obligated because of tradition, because the structure of that religion, that spirituality, then it gets really hard to unmingle that, to kind of separate it, because you're kind of told that you get all the shame dynamic.
Yep.
Because this is what's right and this is what's wrong. And the thing is, like the world is not black and white. But people are being told to be like a computer. It's on or off. It's 0, 1. It's yes, no. It's not just yes, no.
Right.
There's a spectrum. And we're being told that it's got to be one or the other. And it's hard to get out of that dynamic when people are being given these like binary decisions, like it's only yes or no.
Good point. Absolutely. Yeah.
And limiting beliefs is definitely such a roadblock for so many. I mean, you hit the nail on the head. It's just, it controls them, and it controls them to the point that they stay in an abusive relationship, and then they think, well, I'm not being hit, I'm physically safe, but the deep bruises aren't usually the ones you can see on the outside. which
Yes.
is one of the reasons why I tend to get so passionate about is actually to educate people who are not in these relationships. Because not only had I'd been married twice, my first marriage was through a lot of abuse. My second marriage kind of had its own twists and turns. He was much more charming, but I also had a friend who was going through a lot of emotional abuse, and she had planned to leave her husband, and no physical abuse. And she had texted me one night and she said, I'm getting ready to leave my husband this weekend, which would have been right around the corner from my house, which was perfect because our kids were really good friends. And then the next thing I know, she texts me another night, like a couple of nights later, she goes, please pray for me. My husband wants to talk to me tonight. And, I think he thinks something's going on because she was trying to keep it hush hush. Again, no physical violence. Well, he killed her that night and then took his own life. But there was no physical violence until that moment.
That moment.
And
So
I
it's
think, and so I'm really passionate, and I know Deana is too, and I know she feels my passion with this because, those kids were good friends with my boys, and the oldest son just passed away a year ago. So, and I think it's part of the residual effect of the trauma.
There's a lot of damage, like that just cascades. It's exponential. And then we people today are being so kind of like we're going backwards in terms of like there are people saying like you got political parties saying it's okay to like beat your wife. I mean, you got it coming from the top of the system, right? Saying that's okay, right? That this kind of structural control is very it's very it's disillusioning people about what is it we're supposed to be. Is this a progressive society? Is this a society that's moving? Or are we kind of like the British Empire on the decline? Like what is going on? Because like there's some structures that we're being told that this is going to save everybody. To have this certain mindset is this, and it's very top down. It's very controlling. It's very paternalistic. Like I don't want to talk about that, but there seems to be a lot of paternalistic kind of centered going top down thinking, and that hurts everybody. Like if you have a toxic, like somebody leading a family with a toxic personality, that's not just like between the parents. It cascades to the children. It cascades to their friends, like the next door neighbors. Like when something like that, like what you said, that affects the whole area around them. The macrocosm and the macrocosm, they kind of bleed into each other. And what happens in this home affects this home, affects this town, affects this county, affects this city. It's not just, it's not your business. It is our business.
And it's I think by educating others, we're giving them hopefully some tools to take away to maybe keep their eye out in case they do have a family or friend that are in these situations. Because like I said, most people think, oh, you talk about toxic relationships. Well, I have a good marriage. Everything's good. Everything's fine, which that is awesome. But I guarantee everyone is either the abuser, the person that is the victim, or they will know someone who's being at least emotionally abused. And it's just learning those signs.
I think a lot of times we don't really learn social etiquette of how to treat each other as human beings. Like we go to school and we're taught certain things like arithmetic, math, science, but they expect that you're learning it in the home or you're learning it in your spiritual place. But a lot of times in some of these spiritual places in the home, they've got a very toxic, negative, not positive point of view. So your people are being left with no way to address the issues they're in. I mean, I'm a musician. We practice, we learn, and you learn what to do. But like, you need to learn how to do like everything. You need to learn how to communicate, and people don't teach people how to communicate correct, like in a way that's positive or connected. It's like it seems to be very destructive ways of behaving. Like people are trying to just one up each other or win. I don't know. It doesn't seem to be very positive.
Well, right. And toxic families, unfortunately tend to like breed more toxic family. If grandma and grandpa were super dysfunctional, there's an excellent chance that, you know what I mean, that mom and dad are going to be really dysfunctional.
And uncles are too, and aunts are. Everybody is.
Yeah, I mean, it's really, it really is one of those the buck has to stop here situations. I definitely didn't grow up in a perfect home. I definitely didn't have good modeling for what a good marriage and relationship looks like. I definitely had none of that. So then how do you even know how to pick somebody, that's good? So it's real it's very nuanced, and it's very, societally we have to do better. We have to help people understand what toxicity looks like, because like Lizzie said, it's not always, mom's beating dad or dad's beating mom. Sometimes it's just a lot of emotional abuse, and a lot of manipulation and very quiet things that people can't even tell from the outside.
Well, a lot of times as a child is kind of told, they're not able to express boundaries. Like if you're
Right.
in that, if you're in a child form in your child years, in your formative years, and you're given a situation where you can't express, like if something happens, you're told to suck it up. Like you're told you're ugly and you gotta deal with it. Cause dad said, yeah, grandpa says, their aunt says that. So you're never gonna be anything. Then you get stuck with that.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's just a bad loop keeps on going. And we have these filters
Right.
in our mind, right? And so when we hear something, we go to the filter.
Right.
And if the back of your head, that filter, I'm not good enough, I'm not
Yep.
good, I'm pretty, I'm not gonna get anything. Dad doesn't think I'm amount to anything. Mom doesn't think I can amount. So then you get stuck in that. And you might even go toward people that repeat what your aunt said, what your dad said, what your grandma said. And then you just this is kind of where, like, where is your boundary with to say, hey, I am an individual. I have a right to feel good, right? I have a
Mhm.
right to express myself. But if
Yeah.
you're told that you don't, then that's like the root cause.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. If all you've seen is dysfunction, that's normal to you. It's just normal, And so even if you saw things as a kid that you didn't like or that you felt were wrong, it still feels normal. And, you might do better than mom did. You might pick someone that's better than who mom chose, but it still might be somebody that's very dysfunctional and very toxic. And recognizing those patterns when you haven't been taught what that looks like is really tough.
Yeah. Because other things, people think the marriage is like, that's like the holy grail. And you can't, once you're in it, you can't go out of it because it's shame and disappointment. And it's like everybody's thinking about, well, I got to stay for the kids. I got to
Yeah.
stay for what the neighbors think, what people in my church think, what the synagogue thinks, what the
Yeah.
mosque thinks, what anybody thinks, right? And it's like, well, what do you want?
Yeah.
Like where you get where you're a people pleaser kind of mindset is like, I can't care about what I want.
Right.
I gotta please the preacher, the pray, the rabbi, or I gotta please whoever, their mom,
Yeah.
whatever. Like I gotta please them instead of pleasing me. Like, well, why shouldn't I be able to actually have freedom? But maybe not. It seems like we talk about freedom a lot, and then we create these constructs that like anything but freedom.
We're in bondage.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
it's hard to talk about it because then people say, "Well, you're new age, or you're like, what are you doing?" Like that. I want traditional values.
You know what? I have no problem with traditional values or whatever values that people choose, but they all need to be healthy. They all need to be, honoring to the other person,
You have to frame it. Like,
uplifting.
yeah, do you actually really believe in something that's uplifting, and you don't have to push somebody else down to feel good? You don't have to go
Exactly.
say that the other is the cause of all you look in the mirror, the looking glass self, and you can't see anything wrong, but you see something wrong with the person over here, person over there, and everything is their fault,
Mhm.
right? And then you say, "Well, I've got good values." But you
Yeah.
can't look at the like, I never do anything wrong.
Yeah.
And, but like, what do you think? What are you doing? But actually, you do actually have this problem, right? You actually don't think you're good enough, and you're
Yeah.
pushing it on. You're projecting.
Yep.
So projection is really the danger, right?
It is. Definitely it is. That's definitely one scenario. I think for me in my relationship, I think one thing that always brought me back to my ex when I finally just said I have to leave. Like, this is messed up. This is a terrible situation. I feel like I'm being destroyed, from within. And my kids also don't deserve to be around someone that's, you know, manipulating and out finding sexual encounters everywhere and, just completely toxic, completely living a double life, complete fake. My kid, this isn't good for my kids either. But I will say with what you said, you're right. But there's also a second way to where you have to be careful in these toxic relationships, because if somebody is a narcissist or they're borderline or they are, fill in the blank, sociopath, psychopath, one of the best things they do to pull you back in is say, you're not perfect either. You have flaws. You have problems. Look at even last week when you just went crazy and started screaming at me, or you even wanted to get physical with me. And they will use that to prove that you're really toxic too. You have problems too. You're not perfect. And my ex used to say that to me all the time. And believe me, I did everything in my power to always behave the best I could, because somebody had to counterbalance his crazy and give the kids and our home a better, feel, a more normal, good vibe, good feel, whatever you want to say. But he would tell me, you're not perfect either. And then I would just have nothing to say about that, because yeah, you can't ever be too perfect. You can't ever be so perfect that this person can throw no stones. But what I finally realized, and the epiphany that I got, Phantom, was there is a normal set of imperfect where you're just a normal imperfect person with your annoying habits and the things you do that you shouldn't and you try to work on. And then there is a soul sucking, life destroying
The
problem.
spectrum. Yeah, every human being is like, no one's perfect, right? And there's a spectrum. And then you have the people who try to be perfect. And then you
Yeah.
have the people who are kind of like way out of the spectrum. They're on a bell curve. They're on the outer edge. They're on the outer edges. They're pushing it. And then they're trying to tell you, because it's just a truism. You're never gonna hit the mark 100%. Right.
You're never going to hit the mark 100% ever. But, I am in a relationship now for a decade. I'm not perfect. He's not perfect. And we're so happy. And we have the most peaceful, wonderful home, for our children and grandchildren. And neither of us are perfect. And we definitely don't weaponize the fact that neither of us are perfect. But we also uplift and uphold and nurture our relationships, and we value the people in our home, and we treat them with respect and dignity. So as imperfect as we are not destroying people. We are not making critical mistakes that cause people pain, and we're not repeating those things over and over again with a promise that they'll change. Destructive behaviors over and over and over again are a very different kind of imperfect than normal imperfection. And so that's where I think, that language we have to always be on guard, if we're being told that in a toxic relationship.
Yeah.
I think it's
Well
super.
said. Yeah.
Well, the thing is, a lot of times it's like, if you have you have to have a lesson learned, right? But if you never learn from your lessons and you always go back, and then you never really fulfill that I'm going to be better, right?
Yeah.
Now, it's a spectrum. Like a musician, like we always strive to get the composition like 99% of what we wanted it to be.
Mm-hmm.
But we have this thing called a happy accident. And as you get to be more of a creative, you start to learn that whatever you had in your plan, right, what you actually end up doing in a flow state,
Mm-hmm.
and you kind of let go, and you like allow these downloads to happen, like things come out better than trying to control every little note, every little thing. The more you try to control them, more it falls apart. And so when you learn to have some grace with yourself, maybe I didn't hit that right. It's a little quarter off, or the half tone off, but it actually sounds better. Instead of thinking that it doesn't, right? They think allowing yourself to have some grace is a hard thing if you've been told that things have to be perfect, like the perfection trap. I think a
I
lot of
like
people
that.
get like the perfect idealism of their what they think a marriage should be, what they think a relationship should be, and
Yeah.
then they get blamed for not being the perfect soulmate. You know?
Absolutely. And I would think that from a musician's perspective, if you do get too tight and calculating on how you perform, you probably squelch that creativity, right? You don't even let any of that flow. So that makes total sense to me. And I think that could translate into relationships, where if one of you is trying so hard, to either A, be perfect yourself or B, squelch the other person, you're not going to allow that person to be who they are. I mean, there should be a lot of grace in a relationship. There should be a lot of, this is who you are. But that's why it's so important when you meet somebody that you really love who they are and you really respect them as a person and you really feel like they complement you in harmony. We'll use musical terms,
Yeah.
because if you think that those annoying things they do or those like absolutely embarrassing or awful things they do are going to be shaved off by your loving them,
Yeah, you
it's
gotta change
it's
them. You gotta
not
fix
going
them.
to happen.
I think that's the big problem is a lot of people think I can fix this person,
They
right? I
do.
can change this person, right? But if a person is like, that's who they are. And if you don't come to terms with like this person that you met 5 years ago, they continually do the same thing. You've never been
Yep.
able to change it because like if you didn't understand who they are, well, that's that your filter. Your filter didn't like kind of minimized it.
Right.
Your filter said it was that, the fact that
Right.
they say hateful things once in a while when they get drunk or they push on you. You think that's going to get better? It doesn't get better, right?
No, it
But
usually gets worse. But like you said, love is blind. And so when you have all these infatuated feelings, and of course they're also putting on the charm and they're putting on their best behavior. So really, truly at the beginning of a relationship is a really important time to understand that the mask is going to come off, which is why we
yeah,
talk about, the mask of a predator, because that mask will come off, but it takes time, and as far as mine and Lizzie's relationship with the man we were both married to, the same guy, he put on the best possible mask, and he put on a very different mask for Lizzie than he did for me when we were
mhm,
dating, because he knew what she wanted, what she would fall in love with, and he knew what I would fall in love with. He just kind of figured both of us out, and became that person. And if we had only known that it would take probably 6 months ish, maybe a little longer, for those red flags to start coming out and to really give it that time, but he would pressure you into marrying him
well,
sooner.
before you can
Before you,
really see who he really is, all you
Yeah.
see are the good days. He's
Yeah.
pretty focused on the good days to kinda get you into the contract.
Yep.
absolutely, absolutely. They will, and they may not pressure you in a negative way where you get red flags. They might pressure you in a, I can't wait to marry you. Like,
Mhm.
you know what I mean? Or use whatever tactics they want to use to get you to sign on the dotted line. And that means even moving in. Maybe they're not pressuring for marriage. Maybe they just want to live together. They're like, why are we doing this? Why are we both paying rent? We could save so much money. We could go on those trips we talked about. So they're extremely good. Like, these predators are absolutely fantastic, and they look like a normal person to everybody, and
Yeah, they
even
don't
to
look
you.
like that. That's this, the thing is everybody's looking for this kinda, Charles Manson. Yeah,
Yeah.
Right,
it's like
right,
they gotta look like that, they got the thing
right.
right on. It's like you can see it right there, right? That's
Yeah.
it. But, like,
Well,
that's not how it comes to you.
and
Right.
like Deana kind of really hit the nail on the head. A really good predator, they will watch you so closely and they will emulate everything to do with your life.
Mhm.
Mhm,
And they immerse themselves then into your life, in your daily routine. Like, for instance, in my relationship with our ex, he wooed me by I had 4 boys and I was single for over 10 years. And
mhm.
I did everything on my own. So his way of wooing me wasn't taking me out or bringing me flowers. It was, let me help you
With the
drop the
kids.
boys off, pick the boys
Mhm.
up. I would have boys in separate, sporting events or whatever. And he'd go, you take those boys there and I'll take these boys here. So it was immersing and coming along beside me, knowing that that is something that I needed. and desired.
It's gonna
And that's
disarm
what,
you. It's gonna
yeah,
disarm you. It's gonna seem like a great guy. It's like how
yeah,
many guys, like if he's not like doing the overtly suspicious thing, right?
yeah,
He comes and does the thing that you're hoping that a decent guy's gonna do. He's gonna take interest in your children. He's gonna
yep,
Yep.
go and do like things that seem selfless.
yep,
Like
Yep.
he's a family guy. He's got the right values. That he's doing the
yeah,
thing. They're like, why would you do that in the first couple of introductions to a person to actually do that? Right?
yeah,
Not that there are guys that wouldn't do that, but like if you go and you hit the right buttons, it's like he's paying, like you're saying, he's I don't know if they're stalking, but they actually know enough about you
Mm-hmm.
to hit
yeah,
the right buttons, to hit the right moments, to kind of disarming.
yes,
Right. Exactly. And so that's kind of what they do. So you just don't have any red flags at first. You just really think this guy is perfect or this girl is perfect. Like they've got all the characteristics I've always wanted. They answered all the questions correctly. I mean, it's absolutely fascinating. It's just like grooming somebody.
Did
You
they
know,
break?
it mhm.
Did he also disarm your friends and your family, or did
Oh,
he focus on you?
absolute friends, family. I mean, Lizzie's dad had great discernment and, completely thought he was wonderful. I mean, people that would normally pick up on things. Now, also remember, you're infatuated, you're in love, you're telling them all these wonderful things about this person. So they're getting that straight from you. And then when they meet them, they also don't really have any reason to think anything negative because again, that mask comes off after a while. It takes a while before the real
Real,
the real
real
person starts
person.
to come out. So we always encourage men and women to really take your time dating. Do not move in. Also, try not to get intimate for a while. That kind of confuses things emotionally, especially for women. We can get real,
Connected.
we can that can change the dynamic of the relationship to where you're not really thinking clearly with your head anymore. So taking your time, I think, is one perfect way to really find out who this person is. Now, I had several red flags right off the bat. But again, like, I should have listened to those, but I was very, very young. I was only 17,
Oh,
when I
okay.
met him.
Yeah, if you're very, yeah, because that's the thing. Was he a lot older?
No, he was only 19.
I was
But by
thinking,
19 years old, he'd already had a very, very red flag type of past with his sexual addiction.
oh,
So, I mean, he'd been arrested for, exposing himself. And I mean, it goes on and on. And I did find these things out, but most of them I found out right after we were married.
oh,
But I
you didn't
didn't
know
know what
that?
to
You
think
kind
of
of
it.
hid that, or you didn't, nobody told you, or you couldn't find
Oh,
it until
yeah,
after?
yeah. I mean, like how are you going to find out? I mean, his mother actually revealed some of it to me, but again, it's like after you're married and then now you don't know what to do with this, especially back then. I didn't know what this was. I was just so innocent. But moving on to like people that are in these relationships, the red flags come out later. And when Lizzie and I finally connected the dots with each other and became friends, she actually found out that he had been carrying on a whole nother relationship with a third woman while he was
Mhm.
married to her for almost a year. So he was living a complete double life. He was making a family with the woman in the town, a town nearby, and her kids, and telling Lizzie that he was, had a second job working for Uber, or he had, obligations, for the church. He's going to go, do some things with the church. He's going to try to really get himself together and get some counseling. And then he's telling the other woman that, well, I don't want to take you into my home, because I'm taking care of a little elderly couple.
So you had to
And
tell a lot of
I,
stories.
yeah, oh yeah, yeah. But he always made himself look like a stinking hero. And so, of
Mhm.
course, she was like, she had seen the home, she had driven by with him. So she couldn't imagine that he lived there with a wife, no elderly couple. And then he, didn't spend the night with her because he said, I know that you are a faith-based lady and it would look bad to your kids and your friends and your family if we were, hooking up. So he didn't stay the night at her house. So he had this perfect scenario for
Cover.
almost
He
a
had a lot of
year.
covers, a lot of stories.
oh
But
yeah,
it's like, but he just like it seems like like in the way the world is set up, it gives cover for these type of people, to get in with the right crowd. They can get people around him to think they're the greatest person. Did
Yes.
did he get a lot of the people around him, they didn't see the red flags either, right?
They did not. They did not. In all 27 years, his neighbor, he lived by a little older couple that lived next door, and they thought he was wonderful. I mean, so many people thought he was wonderful,
So,
and
so that
this
makes
little
it harder,
town.
right? Like if everybody around him thinks he's the greatest guy, then they start putting it on you. So does that create a lot of pressure if you try to say, well, this person is not who they say they are, they're not who they are, right?
It creates cognitive dissonance, which is, of course, the between your head and your heart, where your heart is screaming one thing about this person. You're seeing these things and you're feeling these things mostly, but all these things around you say otherwise, including them when you confront them about something, and they look at you like you're crazy, or they tell you
Yeah,
you're
they put
crazy.
it on you. So everything is
Absolutely.
that you're the one with the problem. You're starting the argument. Everything was great until you brought this thing up. You're not perfect. I'm not perfect. Like, so
There you
everything
go.
gets like the reverse. It's like a projection.
Yeah.
Like we see a lot of projection today. It's like there's a lot of projection going on in the world where somebody's the thing that you say is happening is the thing that you're doing, right? But
And
you put it
Phantom,
on.
we call that gaslighting. We call
Yeah,
that gaslighting.
there's
You
a lot of
literally,
that.
yep,
Yeah.
you're looking at it, you see it, it's right in front of your face, and yet you're being told that's not what you're looking at. That's not what you're seeing.
But it seems like the
You're wrong.
society is primed now. Like we've got this happening at the macrocosm level. We've got people like influencers and people who are looked up upon highly doing this. So,
Yep.
like, how destructive is that when we've got like these people in the public eye that are not being held accountable for the same kind of behavior that's happened in the microcosm?
Absolutely.
So, does that give more permission to abusive type people to say, "Hey, this is a time where I can get away with it"?
Mhm. Exactly. And you're right. You're right. Absolutely. I think that society needs to clean up.
Yeah.
Too. Like our leaders should really be people that are respectable and admirable and do the right thing and make sacrifices for the people that they govern, instead of like so many of them. And I know there are good ones out there. I'm not saying they're all crooked and, but so many of them, it's all about money. It's all about,
Yeah. So this
getting
power
the
dynamic.
power.
Yeah, the problem I have, like I would just explain something like in the tech world, like algorithms will actually make money for hateful things and very like things that are very I don't know, like superficial and not really like fake. Like you could create like AI fake a fake statement, a fake picture, a fake thing. It's not true, but you could get 1 million views. You could monetize off of it. And if you tell the truth, the thing you tell the truth on, right? That post won't go anywhere.
Yeah.
The lie will go somewhere. The hateful
Right.
speech will go somewhere. The derogatory speech will go somewhere.
Right.
And it's a decision that now the corporations have decided that money means more than anything. And they will do whatever makes money over anything. And that is very destructive because we were kind of told that these companies are somehow morally correct and you should make sure that you have a clean record before you work with them. They're going to do a background check on you. They're going to do a drug test on you. But then they're doing things that's like, they don't seem to have any moral clarity to me.
Agreed. I agree so much. Yes. Yeah, it's a real double standard out there, isn't it? It really is.
It's just hard. Like you're trying to teach young people, like young men and women, and they're like doom scrolling very toxic stuff. They're being told like body shaming. They're being told to look like this, to be like that, right? And then it's very destructive. And in these machines are the nannies for the kids.
Yeah.
It used to be like Sesame Street and Electric Company was what the kid would be being watched. And now you're being watched by like Andrew Tate. Andrew Tate is what the kid's looking at, not Sesame Street. So like what's going to happen with that?
Well, and we wonder why the suicide rate for young people is so high now. I mean, it's at an all-time high. That, I mean, and younger, like 10-year-olds, 11-year-old kids that shouldn't even know what that is. They shouldn't even know anything about that or even have a desire to kill themselves. And it's happening,
You're just getting cyberbullied,
Yes.
to the extreme. You got 7-year-old, 8-year-old kids getting cyberbullied by their classmates.
Yep.
To the point where they got to be homeschooled.
Yeah.
Because it's so destructive.
Mm-hmm.
And then that same thing can happen in the workplace.
Yep.
So it happens in the workplace. It happens at school. It might happen in your religious zone, like wherever. So you're getting all of these and then the bullies don't seem to be getting any kind of repercussion. They're actually getting higher positions.
Oh my gosh. I don't know. Have you been through that? Because I have sure been through that. And I've talked about it in our podcast many times about having a narcissist boss or a silent, covert narcissist boss that, again, charming, nice to everybody, gives raises, does all the right things, makes upper leadership thinks they're a saint, brings money in for the company, but boy, they've targeted you. And once they've got their eyes on you that you're a threat, and they want you out, and maybe because you do tell the truth, or maybe just because you're well liked and it makes them look bad. I tell you, boy, it's rough. And then to watch them move up in the company after multiple people, because they'll target you, and when you finally can't take it anymore, the next person will be targeted. And so many good people, leave because of this one toxic person. But it seems they're supported. I agree with you. I've seen
destructive. Yeah, I don't understand, because I don't think it's very profitable. I think
no,
they don't realize what money they're not making, what opportunities they're losing, because they're so comfortable. They're in the bad loop too. They're in the like the board's in the bad loop with the guy, right? All the guys in the C-suite are in a bad loop, because it's just okay, you guys are familiar with this. You think it's okay, right? You think you're comfortable with it. It's uncomfortable if I walk in the room and say, this guy's saying really inappropriate things in the bathroom. And they say, well, and then even if you give them a tape of it, even if you have a witness of it, then suddenly you're the bad guy because you brought it up.
Yep. That's exactly right.
You're the bad guy, so then suddenly all your forward momentum is stopped because you dared to bring it to HR. HR says they're going to deal with it. Then they don't. Then you find out that somehow you don't get the promotion, you don't get the upward trajectory, and they do. And you're
they do.
You're like, being who I am, I've run into the same things.
Have you? Oh, have you? It's awful. It's really awful. And I agree with you. And one thing I finally realized was HR is not there to protect me. I thought they were there to actually protect me, and they cared about the well-being of the company and the well-being of the people that I was put in charge of. I had this huge team of people, and I thought that truly the upper leadership would care about these people's well-being and happiness, and that they would not want any of these things occurring in their organization. But what I found out was they just want you to shut up, because they want everything to appear good and appear clean and look good to the board or look good to the public. They want to have a spotless reputation. So if you come to them with an actual legitimate concern about maybe a doctor or surgeon, or, I was in healthcare, so maybe about somebody in the organization that is really causing patients harm, it's fascinating, because the code of conduct and the policies say, make sure you're speaking up. Yeah. And then all of a sudden you're being shut down. And like you said, you're suddenly, they want you out, and you're like, whoa. I'm doing my job here. I want this place to be amazing for our patients and safe and amazing for my employees, and, that they get compensated and nobody's allowed to be bullied. But it's fascinating to me. I agree with you 100%. HR's job, I'm not saying in every place, again, I don't want to be that negative person that says it's all,
it's
bad.
Very difficult. I've been in the corporate world within IT.
Yes.
And it's pretty toxic. And if you look at what Silicon Valley's been doing lately, how they could easily flip to saying they don't support DEI. Like they were all for it. As soon as they get any pressure on it, boom, they're not for it. So if you can flip on a dime like that, And I'm supposed to look at you and it's like, oh, I got to get drug tested. I have to make sure I don't have a criminal record. I have to have all this stuff. But if there's a guy in the company that's abusing people, and you
Yeah.
bring it up, you're the bad guy.
You're
right?
the bad guy. Yeah. And especially if it's somebody, God forbid, that's, in upper leadership and they're abusing drugs, or they're not showing up to work, or they're, like you said, they're abusing people left and right. But if that person's bringing in money for the organization and they're making them look good,
merger. I mean, if they're helping with the merger,
if they're helping with the merger,
they're on the they know people on the city council. They know this person. They know this. See, that's the problem. It seems like to me, I went back to Bowdoin, and like the frat boy guys. It's the frat boy network. And there's a sorority network, but the frat boys seem to be more into it, right? If they are in that network, going back to where they were, they at Harvard or Brown or whatever, and they were in that group, they will let anybody in that group do whatever they want. They don't care, right? And you can have a case. You could bring it to the DA.
Yeah.
The DA was in the frat. It might not go anywhere.
Yes, exactly.
That's what's going on. And I've seen it. And it's like, I think a lot of people have seen it, but it's like that's the problem. We got to really push. I mean, what I times to do is sometimes you're not meant to be in this place.
Yes.
Sometimes you have to actualize and go somewhere and maybe you be an entrepreneur. Maybe
that's what I'm doing.
Create your own thing, because they've told you that you're supposed to be part of their thing.
Right.
But they really don't want you in their thing. And they do a lot of lip service.
Unless you become one of them. Yeah. If you become one of them and just, you know what I mean? Hush up about anything that's literally morally wrong, or even against their own policies. If you hush up and you go along with them, then you're going to be one of them.
And you might get in you're getting the C-suite then. Right.
Uh-huh.
When they get people who turn the blind eye, the people who let them get away with it, right? To cover it up, to hide it, shove it down, don't say anything. Then you get and that's the problem. It's kind of self-fulfilling. It keeps on bringing the bad apples to the top of the bunch.
Yep.
And rotten the whole thing, but they're at the top and it looks good. But they just do a little bit of checking and it's not that good. Right? The whole thing's rotten.
Yeah, and exactly.
And it seems like pretty good, but it's not.
Right. And I've always said, and I've watched this with, I think 3 different healthcare positions that I've had. And I've watched this where good people come in and they go, whoa, what's going on? This is not okay. We need to talk about this. We need to, and it's like the good people either have to just shut up and just do their job 8 to 5, just do your business, collect your check, go home, or they have to leave. And that's about what it's down to. And I had no idea that there were that many politics in certain careers like healthcare. I didn't think healthcare would have so many politics. I thought it'd be
Hippocratic oath, right? You think that they would do what they're supposed to do.
Exactly. Like it should be for the patient. Like, aren't we doing this for the I mean, really, the bottom line is we are helping people get better. And really, truly, the people on the ground floor are doing that. Most of them have the best interest at heart to help their patient and to do right by that person. And they sacrifice, for their patients every single day. But man, when you get up in those C-suites where they're making all the money, unless you get into a rare company, and I have seen also very, very good healthcare organizations that truly had wonderful leaders, and that trickled all the way down to who they hired, what they supported.
Like if you have the person that's kind of like a Rockefeller kind of mindset, like, I'm going to actually Carnegie, like I'm going to actually give back.
Yes.
I don't want to I'm going to actually help build the bridge, right? Yes. I'm not going to tell the taxpayer to build a bridge. I'll build a bridge, right? I'll give to this hospital. I'll give to this school. But you have this other mindset today. It's like the disruptor, and I don't have to pay anything, right? So I will build my factory, and I won't pay for the road. I won't pay for the bridge. I won't pay for anything. And I'll actually make the people pay higher utility bill, higher electric bill. And I don't care because I want the break, and I don't feel any obligation to the society. And that's the kind of toxicity we're getting, is this kind of mindset is take. So I'm so great.
And
Right.
that's the exact mindset, Phantom. I love how you put that, because if you translate that into mine and Lizzie's experience being married to a narcissist, that's exactly their mindset. I'm going to take. What's in it for me? Like, how can I manipulate this person into getting what I want? How can I manipulate them into, saying what I want? How can I make myself look good by having this little perfect family? It's all about them. It's all
Mhm.
about, you are being used. You are just a pawn. You are just helping them, with whatever is in their mind that they want for their life and their future. And you are never going to be really, truly loved by these people, because they only love el numero uno.
And
Yep.
it's really interesting because as you guys were saying, they'll suck all of that out of you, and when they realize there's nothing left, they have no problem discarding you. No matter
Mhm.
how
Yep.
much you invested into them,
Yep.
Mhm.
you are that's
Yeah.
it,
So like,
including their own kids, including their own kids.
Yes.
it seems like
That's
what my papa used to say. It's all show, no go.
Yeah.
Like a
yeah.
lot.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like
Yep.
some people are just all surface, and it's like if it doesn't work for them, like it suddenly doesn't work, then you're gone. Right? Because it was all for show. It's all very surface, very
I mean,
superficial.
they walk away, and like this guy that we were married to, he, when we finally caught up with woman number 3 and let her know that he had been married their whole courtship, and he unfortunately he had just married her, because Lizzie had just divorced him, and she immediately filed for divorce. Well, guess what he did? He ran right off and married woman number 4.
Mhm.
After
Within a few months. Yeah.
within a few months, just ran off, found somebody that was a friend of his family's, and the family, he'd been estranged from the family by distance for a long time. They didn't really know who he was or what he was about, and immediately married another woman, and just gets what the life that he wants from that person. And just it's just a repeating cycle, and it's so they really are predatory. And
Very
we really
predatory.
want to warn anybody that's with these people that they will love bomb you so much that you feel like you're loved.
Pressured into it.
But that love is very superficial, and it's very fleeting, and it's not real. And so you have to understand what real love looks like and feels like, and what healthy looks and feels like, before you can kind of spot these guys or girls.
And that's a hard thing because, like I said at the beginning, it's like a lot of people don't know how to have a healthy relationship because their pop and their mom, they might not have one. Their grandpa might have one. Their uncles
Mhm.
might have one. Their friends might not have one. And
Definitely.
so, it's like, where's your example? Like, it's
Right.
like if you don't have a lot of good examples, if
Right.
you don't actually practice on how to actually, communicate, right?
Mhm.
People like, how do you talk to this person?
Right.
How do you do it without like disrespecting them? How do you do it when you're not trying to get over on them?
Right.
How do you have like a real human conversation with another human being?
Mhm.
And sometimes I don't know if we're actually teaching people how to do that.
Well, again, I mean, even when these relationships end up in therapy, most therapists are bamboozled by a narcissist, because they will literally convince the therapist that it's the other person, and then
Mhm.
of course that person probably at that point in their life is wondering, is it me?
Yeah,
Am I the
I
problem,
compulsion,
really?
yeah, if you can fool the therapist, and when you go to counseling, then they're saying it's your fault again.
Mhm.
Exactly. And one of the best things I've ever heard, I know we got to go in a minute, but one of the best things I've ever heard was for a therapist to understand which one is the narcissist. The narcissist is going to be constantly pointing the finger at the victim and saying, it's them, it's them, it's them. And let me tell you why. And let me prove it, blah, blah, blah. And they'll give all these reasons. And the person that is the victim feels awful about everything. They feel
Mhm.
awful about everything. They don't know for sure if they've hurt that person. They don't know for sure if they're the bad one. Or maybe they do. Maybe at that point they've finally gotten the epiphany that it's not me, but they're still wanting to be a better person, and they're still wanting to, grow in their own selves. And so generally that's kind of the dividing line. So it takes a really sharp person to spot a narcissist. It is not easy.
That's really important. And I know you guys have to go, but that's what we've been talking about today. And we do have the link that I have there in the QR code. If you scan that with your phone to get to your survivingtoxicrelationships.org, what do people find if they go there real quick?
Well, we are on YouTube at the same address, Surviving Toxic Relationships. We have many YouTube episodes. We also have a very thriving podcast, same name. We interview a lot of therapists, authors, people that have been through these things. And at the beginning of the year, we plan on starting a group for women to come and just have that time together. Lizzie and I both became life coaches so we could be more effective helping. And so, we're going to start a program to try to help women and give them a space to talk with each other, tell stories, really understand what kind of relationship they're in, and hopefully get free, whether they stay in the relationship and just become more healthy themselves, or they decide they need to leave. Either way, we want people to not go through that confusing, exhausting, fearful, and really you feel like you're dying inside. We don't want anybody to go through that, and we want them to have something that we never felt like we had.
I think that's really important. But I'll let you go. I know you have an appointment, but I want to thank you for being on the Family Look That Goes podcast. Check that QR code out for more information. If you want to click on that to connect with those, you guys, I want to thank you for being on the show today.
Thank you, Phantom. We really enjoyed you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day.